This could change everything. The Hyundai IONIQ 5 might be the first EV you buy over a petrol car, not because it's faster or kinder to the planet, but because it's genuinely more fun to drive. Today we're going to find out if that's the case, but first hit like, hit subscribe, and give us a comment down below with your thoughts on fast EVs.
See, the thing is, there are some excellent electric performance cars around, like the Porsche Taycan and Audi e-tron GT twins, Kia EV6 GT and even the MG4 X-Power. They're fast, capable and even quite enjoyable, but when it comes to driving involvement and excitement, none have yet matched their conventional petrol-powered peers. This is what the Hyundai IONIQ 5N is attempting to change.
But that's going to be a tough task, as at more than $110,000 plus on-road costs, it goes head-to-head with the likes of the Mercedes-AMG A45 and Audi RS3, two truly awesome hot hatches. We'll go through the car in detail, go for a drive and then hit the track, so use the time codes below if you want to skip ahead.
Externally, the N differs little from the standard IONIQ 5. It's a little wider with a subtle body kit, some extra cooling, larger 21-inch wheels with Pirelli P0 tyres, but it's the brakes behind those wheels that are the clearest evidence of the N's performance intent.
The IONIQ 5N's powertrain is similar to that of the EV6 GT, just with the wick turned up that little bit. It makes another 18 kilowatts over the Kia, but the Hyundai's trump card is its overboost mode, which lifts outputs to 478 kilowatts and 770 newton meters for 10 seconds at a time. This drops the 0 to 100 claim to just 3.4 seconds. Maximum range is claimed to be about 450 k's, but 400 is pretty realistic, depending on how often you use those 478 kilowatts, of course.
Charging the 84 kilowatt hour battery on a 50 kilowatt DC charger takes a little over an hour from 10 to 80%, but the IONIQ 5's 800 volt capability opens up the world of 350 kilowatt ultra fast charging, which will take the battery from 10 to 80% in around 20 minutes. Hyundai standard warranty applies, including 8 years for the battery, and service intervals are lengthy, but quite reasonable at $625 a pop.
My first impression upon getting on board the IONIQ 5N was, it doesn't really feel like a $120,000 car in here. And that's okay, this is a pretty hardcore performance car, the money's gone on the mechanicals. But equally, if you're asking people to pay unprecedented money for a brand, I think it's important to make a big impression. Having said that, I can't really tell you why it's not worth six figures. There's nothing really wrong with it. It might be just a feeling, but it also might not be a fair assessment. It might be because it's quite easy to find bits from cheaper Hyundais in here. There's gear selection wands from the regular IONIQ 5 and 6 and the Kona, same with this charging arrangement. Some of the materials are nice, steering wheel, this padded leather armrest, this padded knee rest is a handy feature, but others, it's okay. It might be because there's a lot of recycled materials in here. Practicality is very good, heaps of storage in this center console under here, and there's loads of equipment. We've got a great driving position with these heated and ventilated sports seats, though they are manually adjust, heated steering wheel, 3 USB-C ports and wireless charging, 8-speaker stereo, great head-up display, and of course Hyundai's signature widescreen infotainment system.
It's a really easy system to use. There's wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and unusually for this type of arrangement, you can find the settings you're after very quickly. It's a similar story with the instrument cluster, which is easy to navigate, and you can choose from 3 different graphic styles and 3 different gauge styles. As you'd expect, all the active safety equipment is there, with the exception of driver attention monitoring, which has been deleted for this performance-focused variant.
Back here is where the IONIQ 5N really impresses, especially by performance car standards. There is an outrageous amount of space back here. Seat is comfy, the bench slides and reclines 60/40, and the flat floor means 3 across is easier than in most cars too. Material quality carries over from the front. We've got a pair of USB-C outlets, these B-pillar air vents, another 230 volt AC outlet near my feet. If I'm being really picky, the door bottle holders could be a bit bigger, but as a parent, any car with built-in sunshades gets a big tick from me. At the back there is a power tailgate, and the boot is a decent size, so the floor is quite high, so it might not hold quite as much as you might expect. That said, there is extra storage here under the floor, and you can also move that rear bench forward as we saw earlier, but there is only a mobility kit, no space saver spare, so if you get a flat tire, tough luck. So far, so good. But that's not very surprising, as the regular IONIQ 5 was Car Sales Car of the Year back in 2021. But the N is all about driving, so let's get into it.
Imagine if someone created a hot hat with the perfect power curve, a red line of almost 8,000 RPM, zero lag, unbelievable speed, a gearbox that obeyed every command, and a drivetrain that somehow sent power precisely where it was needed. Turns out you don't need to imagine, as that describes the Hyundai IONIQ 5N. With the caveat, of course, that it doesn't have an engine, or a gearbox, or a drivetrain. We need to, of course, cover off what is probably the most controversial aspect of this car. That is the fact that it can imitate an internal combustion vehicle. To do this, you need to turn on the artificial noise, but more importantly, E-shift. This now maps the motor's response to imitate a combustion engine. That is, rev it higher and you get more power, rather than delivering it all at once and then tapering off. You also get an 8-speed gearbox like an i30N. Now, some people will hate this and never be on board. I know this because they've told me, and I get it. It's fake and contrived and pointless. It makes the car slower after all. You know what? I don't care, because it makes such a big difference to the enjoyment level of the car. A lot of people rip on autos for not being involving, but EVs are even worse. Go, stop, go, stop, go, stop. Now you have the opportunity for proper driver input. Gives you choices. Do I want to take this corner in second or third? That choice also allows you to approach corners better, because you've got another speed reference. You're like, I know this is a third gear corner or a fourth gear corner. I do wish it sounded better. Points for trying, but if the likes of Gran Turismo and Forza Motorsport can give us realistic engine noises, why can't one of the world's biggest car manufacturers? That aside, I love it. I'm a complete convert. It's like that scene in The Matrix with Cypher eating the steak. I know it's not real. I know the Matrix is just telling my brain that I'm in an internal combustion car, but ignorance is bliss. We'll do more of a deep dive on the dynamics on track, but what about when you're just cruising around? Well, this turns into an EV really. Smooth, quiet, the steering has more weight than you'd typically find, but it's no problem. The ride's compliant, a little bit springy in the rear, and I did think it was noisy, but I think it's just the charging cable bouncing up and down in the back. It's just no fuss really. However, you're not buying one of these things because it does normal EV things. You're buying it because it does non-EV things. For that, you need to head to the track. So, we're at the track because this thing has an unbelievable amount of settings and features to play with. You think a regular N car's got plenty of adjustability? You ain't seen nothing. I'm not talking about powertrain and steering and suspension. It's got all that, but what I'm really talking about here are all the sort of gadgets this car's got that it can have because it's an EV. So what I'm going to do is show you what it's like as an EV, just in normal sort of sport mode, and then we can play with some of the toys and see if they're any good or just gimmicks. But let's first start with launch control. Let's start in a straight line. So I'll just pull up here, activate, then you just hold the left pedal down with your left foot, the brake pedal, floor the throttle, then launch control ready, and off you go. Oh, Jesus. It's one of these cars that is quick enough to force you back into the seat. There was no dramatic effect there. It is unbelievably fast, this thing. The way it takes off the line, yeah, you feel it in your chest. Right, so there's a couple of custom modes you can select from. I've got it set up, suspension and powertrain in full sport, steering in comfort. In this mode, it's basically like a traditional sports EV. You've got a
50-50 split that can sort of, there you go, shuffle torque where it needs to. It's a little bit rear biased, no sound, no nothing, so you just drive it like an EV. And, I've got to say, it's plenty fun in this mode. There you go, a bit of oversteer on throttle. God, it's fast. You've got to be so careful. This thing is so quick. It's adjustable, it's playful, but other EVs can do that. What other EVs can't do is go into the N options and we select N E-shift. Activate. All of a sudden, we have a petrol car. Well, a facsimile of one anyway. So what this does is gives you a fake gearbox. It essentially just maps the motor to give you gears. I'm in third at the moment. The gear ratios are supposedly mapped off the i30 Sedan N, I think. Not only gives you gears, but it maps the motor to replicate an internal combustion torque curve. So you don't just get a massive hit in the back when you hit the throttle. You get more and more power as you pile on the revs. I wish it just sort of gave you the full EV hit, but with the gear selection. But the gears themselves make such a big difference to the driving experience. It's amazing what a difference it makes. This thing has got to be R35 GTR fast. It just has to be. It is so quick. And it does feel heavy-ish, but nothing like the claimed weight. Look at the speed of the thing. Jesus, you really have to remember to brake. Thankfully, the brakes are awesome. So now I've got in this mode, and this mode is a heap of fun. Again, I know it doesn't make any sense. The engine's fake, the gearbox is fake. You've made the car slower because you've actually limited the power down low, but it makes it so much fun. But let's turn that off because you've probably seen the promo materials of this thing drifting and smoking, and it can do that because it's got what's called N torque distribution. The name is a bit confusing, N torque distribution. It suggests you can move power back and forth. You can't really. What it does is limit either the front or rear motor to make it sort of more front wheel drive or more rear wheel drive. For instance, in a petrol car, say like an M3, if you put that in full rear wheel drive, you're sending whatever, 370 kilowatts straight to the rear wheels. This can't do that. It can't send 478 kilowatts to one axle because it's got two motors. But what it can do is adjust the motors and limit them so you can sort of alter the torque distribution. So at the moment it's 50-50. So I do have all the power because both motors are operating at full potential. Now, if you're really, really weird, you can put it all the way to the front. So now I basically have a 170 kilowatt or 180 kilowatt front wheel drive IONIQ 5N. And it's fine. You know, it's still actually pretty quick, but I don't really know why you'd ever want to do that. So let's do 40-60. So what this has done now is, hasn't really shuffled any power backwards, it's just limited the front motor slightly. So, you know, a greater percentage of torque is now going to the rear. Now you can't do this with the gearbox active for some reason, which is a little bit of a shame, because that would be a lot of fun. But even so, as you can probably see now from the wheel work, it's already more adjustable, but still pretty friendly. So let's nudge that back to 30. Oh, let's go to 2080. Let's skip the middleman. Now, as you can see, again, it hasn't shuffled any power backwards, but it's just, again, limited the front motor. So the car isn't as fast as it was. It's not making as much power necessarily. It's limiting that front motor's involvement to make it feel more rear wheel drive. It probably alters the torque control as well, but essentially that's what it's doing. And it is now definitely a lot more oversteery. So we do it in here, give it a gas. Way, there we go. That is very oversteery. Very oversteery. Very oversteery. Okay, let's chuck all the torque to the back. So now it's rear wheel drive, but now it's basically 280 to 300 kilowatts, depending on whether the boost mode's engaged. So again, it's a lot slower, but it is now basically fully rear-wheel drive. But it's a bit strange because if I just pull up here and just gas it, you get a little bit of wheel spin, but it doesn't just blaze the tyres. It still controls the torque. And as such, it can be a little bit tricky to drive. It takes some getting used to, but no arguing with the results. It definitely turns this thing into an absolute drift weapon. I'm gonna say it's still a bit of a strange experience. There is that sense that the car's trying to figure out what you want it to do rather than just doing it. But I've got to say, it's a hell of a lot of fun, but I do think for all the sort of torque distribution and all that promise, it's at its most fun just in 50-50 mode. So, has Hyundai created the Holy Grail? A car with all the advantages of electricity, with all the advantages of internal combustion? Yep, it kinda has. The IONIQ 5N is a remarkable car to drive, and while there are still a few issues, not everyone's going to love the fakery, there's the weight and the range when driven hard, this still feels like a genuine advance for electric performance cars. And don't be surprised to see plenty more of it in the years to come. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the Car Sales channel, and let us know in the comments below which cars you'd like to see us review.